Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today, I'm fired up, man. I've got Travis Thomas with me. Travis, how you doing?
Brett, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you.
Yeah. Let's jump in. For those of you who can't see, if you're listening, right, we're in an amazing office/studio. So I'm super impressed.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's exciting to have you over here in our O'Fallon, Illinois Visionary Wealth Advisors office. But Travis is a performance coach. He's the creator of Live Yes and, which I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah.
Live Yes and. You're also a comedian. So hopefully you make me laugh today.
Yeah, doubtful.
Doubtful? Okay. But also comedian, you're an author, man. You've worked with I'm going to say this word, I don't normally say it, but the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, we're here in St. Louis country. So I'm a mercenary, Brett. So Chicago paid me, so I work.
Exactly.
St. Louis,
you got to show up.
Called me in yet.
Right, well, we'll get the guys over there and see if they can get you. But the Chicago Cubs, Boston Red Sox, Toronto Blue Jays, Georgia football. Do a lot of personal coaching, workshops, online programs, man. But the biggest role you kind of have right now is to the United States men's national team for World Cup coming up.
Yeah, really exciting. So I've been on staff with them since January 2020. The head coach brought me in, Greg Berhalter. And so I'm a contracted worker, but on staff. I'm the leadership and team dynamics coach. Okay. So that's kind of the title we came up with, which carries a lot of things, but working with the team from leadership skills to mental skills. The way I like to think of it, Brett, is I'm the guy that just is always thinking about the culture, right? So kind of the torch carrier for the culture, where so many staff members are doing so many important things. I'm always thinking about, all right, how are we continuing to make sure we're in alignment with our overall culture as a team?
And that's huge, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But if you can, Travis, give us a little lay of the land on what's made you the man you are today. It's a question I ask on every episode, but I think there's always a backstory that maybe I don't know through my research, and maybe some people that we want to give credit to too. But what has made you the man that you are today?
Yeah, well, it's been quite an interesting journey. I would love to say that I've had a plan. And when I talk about purpose, Brett, I talk about, purpose is not a map, it's a compass. And so if I were to look back and connect the dots in reverse to how I got to doing the work that I'm doing today, it was scary. It's been terrifying. It's been uncertain, but it's always been purpose forward, purpose driven. And so the skinny of it is I'm from Flint, Michigan. For those of you who know Flint, Michigan, most people don't tend to know Flint, Michigan in a positive light. They tend to think of the water, or they think of Roger and Me and the documentary and General Motors pulling out. But I come from Flint with pride, a hardworking town. We had a family business there. And so I definitely have those Midwestern roots. But I loved sports growing up. I played soccer in college at the Division III level. Got out of college, got married right away. My wife and I were celebrating year 26 next month. We got married young, and I figured it was time to kind of get into the professional world, whatever that meant. And so we moved to Boston, and I was working in marketing. She was working in publishing. First weekend in town, we went to an improv theater that had just opened a few months previous. Saw an improv comedy show. And for anyone who's never seen an improv comedy show, it's a lot like Whose Line Is It Anyway on TV. Second City is a big improv theater that a lot of people have heard of. Went to a show, 5 or 6 people on stage, creating stories out of nothing, out of audience suggestions. And I saw that show, and I was blown away. I was like, how do they do that? That's magic. How do they do that? So they have
takes a lot of courage.
Takes a lot of courage and a lot of I'm like, what's the formula there? And so I signed up. They had a training center. So I took a level 1 class. Level 1 turned into 6 levels of training. And a year and a half later, I was graduating from the training center. And then I was auditioning for their touring company. And I made their touring company. And then I made their development cast. And then I finally, after a couple of years, made it to the main stage cast. And so kind of felt like a superhero. I had a real day job, Clark Kent, with a suit during the day, and at night I was on stage, hopefully making people laugh. And I did the improv comedy thing for a few years. Moved to Florida, started a group of 2 guys down there in 2003, 2004. We still perform together when we can. It's more of a glorified hobby. But then, I was working for a website, a spirituality website that came to an end. It was the big question kind of around 2005, which, what do I really want to do with my life? And I wanted to do coaching, and I wanted to do speaking. And I love working with groups and teams and people and the corporate level and sports. But that started a deep dive into personal development for myself, and then to get certified in personal development, which led into organizational development, which led into corporate training and executive coaching.
Were you working with a company doing that, or were you on your own the whole time?
I was on my own,
Okay.
which meant I didn't have a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
So all of a sudden, we had our third child, and I'm like, family of 5, and I'm not making any money. And we go into debt, and we go into a lot of debt. And then it was scary. And it was this idea of sort of following your purpose. Like, man, I really felt like I had a sense of what I wanted to do, but it was tough, and not really knowing what that path was going to look like. And so just kind of in survival mode, I would say, survival mode for about 10 years of just trying to make ends meet and being really scary, but always having a clear sense of who I was and what I wanted to do.
So let's dissect that if we can.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is fascinating to me. So one, you had a very patient and understanding and supportive wife at home.
Hard stop there.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Shout out to
Hollister.
To Hollister.
My wife, because in lots of different, and I've seen it. We've seen it in other marriages where financial hardship comes and there's not enough there to hold the relationship together. And so God bless her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that 10 years, so now you're fighting through odd jobs, and you get this gig, that's exciting. You get this gig, that's exciting, and making a little bit of here. But how does a guy from Flint, Michigan, go to Boston? We go on stage, we're making people laugh. We go down here and we decide, I want to be a coach. Because in my opinion, what I struggle with sometimes is coaches out there, just in full transparency, is they're a coach, but they haven't had the grind.
No.
Right? No. And now you did the grind, but how did you do the grind and end up on the United States men's national team for soccer? I mean, that's mind-blowing to me.
Well, and that's the thing, like that 10 plus years, really, it's all the steps in between. And so, I ended up moving up to St. Louis 2007. And I took a job with my alma mater as an assistant soccer coach just to stop the bleeding.
Which was SLU.
Which was not SLU. It was actually Principia College.
Oh, okay,
Principia College. And even though I'm working at SLU now, it wasn't my alma mater. And I took a job there thinking that there was going to be a job on the other end, either as a resident counselor at the college well, that turned into being a resident counselor at the high school, at the boarding school. So for 3 years, Brett, with my children, 7, 4, and 1, we're living in a boys' dormitory, in an apartment in the boys' dormitory, making nothing.
Right.
But just, it was stopping the debt. But here I was, but you look back and what was the work that I was doing on a day-to-day basis, right? I was mentoring young high school men from around the world. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was coaching sports at the same time. And so I was doing the work that was it was laying the groundwork. It was planting the seeds. And then after doing that for 3 years, we put the kids into a minivan. We started driving around the country like, all right, what's the next step?
Yeah.
We had no plan. And after driving around the country for 6 months, sleeping in a tent, hotel rooms, and friends and family who would ever take us, we ended up back in Florida again. And it was like, I'm going to be a coach, a consultant. We're back in our house. And I thought that was the plan. And then I get an email after being home for a month that IMG Sports Academy in Florida was looking for an improvisation and leadership coach. Like, how in the world did those two exist together?
Right.
So I didn't really want to leave our home and go to the other side of the state, but I'm like, I can't not explore this opportunity.
IMG, it's the best. Right?
IMG, right?
Yeah.
You're working at the premier sports academy in the world. And so I went in and interviewed with a sense of freedom of, I don't really want this job because I want to stay home.
Yeah.
And so that, a little lesson for those.
You had nothing to lose, right?
Nothing to lose because I can be totally transparent and honest. Well, then they decided they wanted me. And so I'm like, this is too good of an opportunity to pass up. So I then did that for about 2.5 years at IMG Academy. Again, as a coach, day in and day out, on your feet, coaching everyone from Korean golfers to NFL combine football players to pre-NBA basketball players to soccer players from South America to tennis players from Russia, and having to deliver that message and work with those athletes on a day-to-day basis. And so when I left there in 2015 and decided to start just my own consulting company called Live Yes And, I felt like, all right, I've got my reps in. And then it's really been from 2015 that I've been on my own. I wrote my own book in 2016 called 3 Words for Getting Unstuck, which is Live Yes And. We'll talk about that. And then you do what you do. You send your book out kind of as a glorified business card. I sent it to the head coach of the U.S. men's national soccer team in 2019, cold, with no intent of ever hearing anything. A, that he would get it. B, that he would read it, and C, that you'd want to do anything with it. And so what happens? A, he got it. B, he read it. And C, he's like, all right. He goes, are you interested in coming and helping with the team? Here's the culture. Do you want to come in and help me,
And that's purely a cold call, if you will. Cold
zero
delivery,
connection.
no connection, didn't know
no
him.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so so since January 2020, I've been, with the national team whenever we're together, and then when I'm not with the national team, I'm doing corporate consulting, corporate speaking, as well as working with other sports teams on the culture and mindset piece.
Yeah. So many places to go right there, Travis.
So that's the path. So how does he end up on the national team? It's like a whole lot of, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going to take the next step based on purpose.
So that makes me think of, the circuits of success, hence the name of the podcast, are your attitude, your belief system, and the actions that you take. Get the results.
Absolutely.
Right? And so without one, it's like the light bulb. That's the circuit side. The light bulb doesn't shine, right? And so what I hear there is action. I hear getting my ass kicked, basically. Pardon my French, right? For a number of years. And
absolutely.
And still doing it, still having support, no plan, which I want to talk about too, because I'm a big planner. But then yet the action part is, I don't know where this is going to go. It costs money to buy my own book, to label the book, to find the guy's information, send it to him, and then have faith, right? So belief into action is faith, is what I always talk about. And so when you hear me say it like that, I mean, how does that come to mind into your story?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. And I think I can remember because I've sent my book to tons of coaches.
Sure.
Right? And maybe I get a thank you card back, and there's really no expectation when you send the book cold. I was talking to our buddy John O'Leary when he's like, how'd you end up on the national team? I was like, John, you're not going to believe this. I sent a cold copy. And he's like, Travis.
He's like, I've done it a million times.
The cold send never works. I was like, I know, it worked this one time.
All it needs to do is work one time, right?
One time. And so I remember being in the family room and being like, I should send Greg a book. And then the voice in my head says, don't waste your time. Right? And then the other voice in my head says, but it only takes 5 minutes. And the other voice says, you're wasting your time. You're wasting the $3 or whatever it's going to send. And I just remember the other voice going, just sit down and do it. It takes 5 minutes. And I wrote the thank you. I wrote the note, put it in the book, sent it. And I'm just so grateful that one voice was louder than the other voice that was saying, don't send the book. And so if I were to write my next book, I think the next book is going to be called Just Send the Book.
Just send the book. That's incredible.
And that's like, it's, what is it? The Wayne Gretzky quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so
it makes me think when I turned 40, so this is, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I wrote down the 40 things I had learned in my life. And one of them was, I said, just take the lunch. And I can't tell you how many people, you've met them, I've met them. It's, I'm not going to do that. They don't want to pay me, or they're not going to do this. They're not going to take the time to go do it. And my philosophy for 20 plus years now in the business world is take the lunch. I don't know. Right. Now you start to get fewer and fewer lunches that you take, but when you're building your career, you've got to take the lunch. You've got to send the book. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And I'm still in that space, right? I'm still in that space where I will go in. I told you, I don't need to say who, but I went in last week and did a workshop for a team. I didn't get paid, right? But I went in with the intent of, this is an opportunity for me to get a foot in the door, to share with what I'm about. And if this is a good fit, this is going to turn into another opportunity. And my advice always to young speakers or young coaches or young consultants, and again, because I still do the same thing, is I offer my services for free all of the time, because you know how this world works. It's relationship building. You are always relationship building. And very seldom have I done something for free that didn't turn into something further down the road. And again, it's going back to intent, right? Like, what is my purpose, right? So my purpose in life is to inspire myself and others to live their authentic brilliance. So whenever someone gives me the opportunity to provide that, right? Anytime I get a chance to do a workshop with someone, I have the opportunity to live my purpose, right? I get my chance to inspire someone else to live their authentic brilliance. And that doesn't always come with a paycheck on the other end, but it comes with me fulfilling my purpose. And again, since that is my compass, right? If I'm always moving in the direction of my compass, sometimes there's going to be a paycheck on the other end of it, but there's always going to be fulfillment on the other end of it. And,
it's huge.
And at the end of the day, that's always going to be the feeling that keeps me happy and keeps me going. And happy from the standpoint not of frivolous happiness, but of fulfillment. Yeah. And that's why I think it's so important, to have a clear sense of what our purpose is and to be able to keep moving in that direction.
So when I go with that, there's two thoughts that came from that part right there. Is one, when I talk about beliefs again and the actions, but that beliefs is the belief in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it takes a massive amount of belief in ourselves to go to that team for free. Because again, you're not looking for the buck now. You have the long-term perspective. Right. But to go there and know that you're going to hit a home run and you're going to deliver. And, there's no guarantees in life, but I have a pretty self-confident thing to say about you that I think they're going to call you back, right? So belief in self is massive.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Brett, you say that, because it's funny. I go in, if someone said, "Hey, will you come and do a workshop?" I have tremendous belief that when I go in, I'm going to provide like a quality session. There's also a voice inside of my head that is always making me doubt my ability, imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it. So, and it's those two, the analogy of the two wolves inside your head, right? You know, it's whichever one you feed is the one that wins. And so I always have a healthy dose of doubt, but there is whatever it is. And I think that's why purpose is so important, because it's connected to my purpose. It almost gives me permission to go, like, I might go in and stink, but I'm still living my purpose. And so just go do it anyway.
Yeah, I think we all have those two people, right? I always talk to people about them is you got this man or woman on your shoulder here saying, "Don't do it, Brett. That's a terrible idea." This guy's saying, "Let's go." Like, we're going to make it happen. And you're right. Whichever one I listen to the most and feed the most is the one that we do. I call it comfort zone callous. Yeah. And so I think that self-doubt is healthy for some of us because that does drive us. But I think the more you do something, I always say the comfort zone is this big. Yeah. And then if you try to break through it, it's, I play golf, so I have calluses on my hand, right? And so for me to go around that and get out of my comfort zone, I have to go around the callus, right? And so then my comfort zone gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And you've done it enough now. And the 10 years where you weren't making a dime and you were going into debt, that was you busting through that comfort zone to now you can walk in a room and deliver.
Right. It's finding your edge. We're talking about finding your edge of your comfort zone. Yeah. Right. And it's like, working with athletes all the time, even with my own kids, I dropped my son off for training the other night. And the last thing I said to him, I was like, hey, what are you focused on today? Right. I'm trying.
How old is he?
He's 15. Okay. Just turned 15. I'm trying to avoid asking players, how do you feel? I'm avoiding that, right? Because feelings are not an indicator of performance. Right. Think about that for a second, right? Yeah, feelings are not an indicator of performance. You can feel super confident and still play lousy. You can feel nervous and afraid and still perform at a high level, right? So how I feel
is say it again. Feelings are
not an indicator of performance. Yeah. I was raised, Brett, I think I'm just a few years older than you, despite the gray. I'm a few years older than you. And I was generationally, I was raised as an athlete. It was this whole be fearless, no fear generation, right? So as an athlete, I felt, and I was a player that carried a lot of nerves. So I always felt that I was less of a man because I was afraid, not knowing that probably most of us had a sense of fear. But if you're made to believe that you're not supposed to be afraid and you are afraid, well, that now I feel that something's wrong with me from the get-go. So I work with athletes.
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry. So when I hear you say that, I was a kid that played sports all growing up, and I would throw up before every game. Right. I was so nervous. And it does, man. It messes with your head mentally, which then kind of makes you come back and maybe not be as aggressive. And I joke now that I'm a better golfer today than I was when I was actually competing and playing in golf. Yeah. Because it's less in my head than it was back then.
And imagine a coach coming to you at that age and you're nervous and you're afraid, and they're basically saying, "Hey, it's totally fine. Yeah, it's totally fine, man. Awesome, you care, right?" So we're not going to try to change that in you, right? Instead, hey, Brett, what are you focused on before you go out in this round, right? Be nervous. Hey, be nervous, right? But what are you focused on? And so, I'm always asking my kids and then asking players that I coach, as they're going out there, hey, what are you focused on today? Give me the 2 or 3 top behaviors that you're focused on, actions, right? Because I can be afraid and focus on actions. Actions get me moving. When I focus on my feelings, it's like I'm feeling good or feeling bad doesn't mean anything. What am I actually doing? And focusing on behaviors and actions. And so, but the other thing I said to my son is, hey, what are you focused on? He tells me, all right, Dad, I'm focused on these 2. I'm like, awesome. Go find your edge today. Go find your edge, right? Get to that edge, because like you talked about the comfort zone, just get one step on the other side of your edge today, and then you've just expanded your comfort zone.
So how do you do that though? How do you find that edge, walk to the edge, and then actually jump over it?
Right. We're almost, it's great in the book, Born to Run, which is a fantastic book. I highly recommend it to anybody. Can't think of the author's name real quick, but it'll come to me. Born to Run. And the book is all about, these ultra runners and just the history of running and just all these, I call them crazy people, right? My good friend is an ultra runner. He's a crazy person. Shout out to Brian. And he's talking to these ultra runners in the book, and they're talking about that edge, right? And this one female runner, she says, I see it as a playful pet when she's running. And she's like, I try to find it as quickly as possible, right? So think about that. Imagine as an athlete, if you tried to go out and finding that edge is basically kind of getting to that point of I don't know if I can make another run. I don't know if I can make another tackle because I feel spent. And what do we really know is what happens if I make another run or make another tackle when I find myself at that edge, go one step further, or can I go 2 steps further? And now you've just, where does confidence come from? Confidence comes from finding that edge and just pushing that edge. And tomorrow it's going to be a little bit bigger, and the next day it's going to be a little bit bigger. So our goal is, so the discomfort we feel is actually that we embrace that as, oh, I'm finding my edge. It's not a bad thing. It's like, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Yeah, I'm finding my edge. Awesome. Yeah. It's going to just push through it just a little bit.
And I've heard this before. I'm no doctor, but nerves or anxiety is no different feeling. The body and the brain doesn't know the difference between anxiety and excitement, right?
Yep. So the only difference, physiologically, what's going on inside of my body when I'm nervous and I'm excited is the same thing. So the way I like to think about that, Brett, is so the only difference.
Man, that would have been nice to know when I was a kid.
Right? So the thing that usually determines whether my feeling is nervous or whether my feeling is excitement is because we're thinking about a possible outcome. And when I'm nervous or afraid, I'm probably focused on a possible negative outcome. And when I'm excited, I'm thinking about a possible positive outcome. So it's like, oh my gosh, I get to go take a penalty shot, or I've got a 5-foot putt, right, to win this tournament. If I'm nervous, I'm thinking about missing it. If I'm excited, I'm thinking about making it. Regardless, all that says to us is when I think about the outcome, it's a distraction. Instead of just thinking about, I've got a 5-foot putt, what do I need to focus on in order to make a good putt? Right. So letting go of outcome and focusing on the action, which is always in the present moment. Right. And so what improv taught me, which I needed as an athlete, improv all of a sudden exercised this muscle, which is you have to stay fully engaged in the moment. Right? Life is happening in the present moment. Sports are happening in the present moment. I talk to soccer players. I'm like, whenever you feel like you're distracted in the past or you're thinking about the future, if you focus on the ball is always in the present moment. Right? So ask yourself, where's the ball? Where do I need to be?
So to dissect that even, then I'm a guy, I'm playing, I'm the forward.
Yep.
And the ball's across the field, and I'm thinking about, man, last week I did this one thing, or stuff like that is what you're saying, basically.
I can't believe I just missed that easy shot, right? 30 seconds ago, and I'm still thinking about it. We're probably going to lose the game now because I missed that opportunity. Now our thought is, can't believe that happened in the past. Now I'm thinking about the possible future, and then you just want to catch yourself. You just want to catch yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm distracted. So how do I get back to the present moment? Right?
And this is business, sport. We're talking about sports, obviously, but for those listening, right? This is life. This is home with your kids.
I talk to salespeople all the time. I'm like, all right, you're in a sales call, right? You're in a sales call. Are you thinking about, I can't believe I just said that. I totally flubbed that. Or, wow, I really need to close the sale. I don't know. Am I going to close the sale? You're either thinking about the when or you're thinking about the then, right? Thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future. Where do you need to be fully engaged in the moment? In the moment, is if you're fully engaged on the client or the person that you're talking to, there's so much information that's being shared in the present moment. But if I'm thinking, and this is again what improv taught me, was as soon as my thought starts to go past or future, I'm no longer engaged, and so I'm missing key information.
Yeah,
missing
that's
key
huge.
information. And so for a player, right, it's like, oh shoot, I'm distracted. How do I get back to the present moment? Well, there's lots of different tools, but I give them the mantra: just tell yourself, where's the ball? Where do I need to be? Because now I'll go, oh, where's the ball? The ball's there. Where do I need to be? Is action based. Oh, I need to push up, or I need to make a run, or I need to go win a tackle, or I need. All of a sudden now you're thinking about what do I need to do instead of what happened or is what is going to happen.
What's incredible, I go to soccer games now all the time. I've got 4 boys, so I'm pretty much if I'm not here at the office, I'm at a soccer field.
Right.
Okay, so right. That's where I go, and I'll be there tonight. But you're right, and it's like even as fans we can do that. But let's pivot from the soccer field and go into the home life.
Yeah.
And so with 4 kids, it's crazy, right? Things can be nuts. You've got, I think you said 3 kids, right?
3 kids.
And so what advice would you have for the parent to take what you just talked about for the soccer player and apply that to the home, right? To the kitchen, to the upstairs where maybe you're putting the kids to bed, it's chaos, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And as your kids get older, that gets a little bit easier, right? But it's still crazy.
Yeah. So what we're always striving for is to be present, right? Is to be present with whatever we're doing. And so again, the home life, there's tons going on. You got young kids, you got trying to make dinner, trying to bedtime. You got, maybe you're still trying to do stuff from work. You got all these different moving parts going on. And the only thing that allows you to be successful is by focusing on what's happening right now. So again, how do we do that? So, again, I'm not a sports psychologist, but I teach mental skills. And I like to break it down to make it really, really simple because I'm not a complex guy. So I want to make things as simple as possible. And to me, when we talk about mental skills or mental toughness, all we're really talking about is the ability to bring our full attention to whatever activity we're doing in the present moment. That is it. So when someone says, oh my gosh, that player, he's so mentally tough, or she's so mentally tough, what they're saying is, if they're a soccer player, when they're playing soccer, they're fully engaged in what they're doing. They're not being distracted by the noise that's going on around them. So optimal performance to me is when you bring your peak ability with wherever you are today with your peak attention. You combine those, combining skill and attention is your optimal performance. Well, so at home, right, there's lots of distractions going on, all this stuff that needs to be done, but all we can really do is one thing at a time. And so it's making, if the world is too big, we need to make it small. And so it's our ability to always ask ourselves, what's, there's an acronym, a great sports acronym, WIN, what's important now? Mm-hmm. Asking ourselves, what's the most important thing I need to be focusing on right now? All right, well, we got dishes, we got laundry, we got all this. Yeah, but what's happening right now? Okay, well, I'm putting my 5-year-old to bed. All right. So can I just put my 5-year-old to bed? Right. So I'm putting my 5-year-old to bed. All our 5-year-old wants is full attention. Yeah. Dad's listening to me. All right, Dad's going to read me a story. All right, can I be fully engaged while I'm reading the story? Right, all that other stuff is waiting for me, but can I be engaged with what I'm doing? Put the 5-year-old down. Great, boom. All right, what's the next? What's the next thing that I do? And we bring our full focus to that, but we're humans, and so we're constantly going to be distracted. So the goal...
But isn't it, I keep interrupting you, I'm sorry, but I think it's amazing because when you say that, I'm just, I put a lot of the boys to bed and do story time and all that stuff over the years. Mm-hmm. And it's funny when you say it because you're right. When I am in the moment, right? Yeah. I'm using air quotes, and I'm not really in the moment. And I'm thinking about maybe I need to read this book, but you just want to get to that next thing. Yeah. You got to do this, you got to do that. Yeah. It actually takes longer to put them to bed.
It is,
right? You stay in the moment with them though, and actually do the story time and do all that stuff. It's actually a more efficient process too.
It's more efficient and it's more peaceful.
Yeah,
right. Because we're not thinking about the distractions, right? Yep. The reason distractions are distractions is because it's getting us to think about lots of different things instead of the one thing that we're doing. Yeah. And so when we actually focus on the one thing that we're doing, the stress and the anxiety and all the other things don't really impact us is because we're just thinking about what we're doing, right? It's like we're turning the volume down on all the distractions. They're still there, right? We're just turning the volume down. The only reason what we focus on, we amplify.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever we focus on, we amplify. So if I focus on what I'm doing, I'm amplifying what I'm doing. If I'm whatever I'm thinking about I'm amplifying that as well. And now I'm thinking about that. Well, I'm amplifying. That's a distraction. So when we think about the distractions, we just amplify the distractions. It's not, our goal is not to get rid of them. It's just to turn the volume down on them. And it's addition by subtraction, right? I bring more to what I'm doing by just focusing on one thing at a time. So by letting the rest go. So all I'm ever trying to help athletes or people do with mental skills is simplification, right? Make it simple. Don't become the person who thinks you're an awesome multitasker. You're not. And so think about just turn it into bite-sized chunks. If I'm a salesman who's getting ready to make a sales call, before that call, take a minute and say, okay, what are the 2 or 3 most important things for me to focus on in order to have an effective sales call? All right. So you can think through, okay, like, all right, I want to make sure that I'm asking good questions. All right, I'm going to ask good questions. I want to make sure that I'm listening to them fully, not cutting them off, listening to them fully. And I'm really going to seek to understand how they're feeling. All right, good. I've got a game plan. I'm going to focus on these 2 or 3 things. Are there lots of other things going on around? Yes. But if I focus on these 2 or 3 things, my experience has taught me that these are important. And if I focus on these 3 things, I'm going to have an effective sales call. And so we're just simplifying whatever we're doing. And we live at a pace right now in society where it's one thing to the next, one thing to the next. And if we don't create the space in between in each activity, even if that space, I was just doing a coaching call with a corporate group the other day. And in this Zoom world we're living in right now, a lot of times people are like, Travis, I'm going from one Zoom to a next. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. Can you pause 60 seconds in between each Zoom? As you finish one Zoom, give yourself a little debrief. All right, what's the most important thing I need to take out of that call? Capture it. And then before you start the next Zoom call, can you do a reboot and say, okay, what are the 2 or 3 most important things for me to focus on this next call in order for it to be a good call?
So turning the page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just build those breaks in between everything that we do. Athletes is the same thing, all right? From school to sport, all right, to homework, right? School, can we give ourselves a break? Sport, can we give ourselves a break? Moving on. And the analogy I heard, which was great, which is music without the pauses in between notes is just noise.
Huh.
Right?
That's true.
What makes music beautiful is the space in between the notes. And so if there's no space, if it's just note, it's just noise. And our life is the same way.
Yeah,
we need to create the pause and the gaps, which allow us to process what has happened and also be intentional about the next thing that we're doing.
It makes me think about something I've done, and you can probably see these journals if you're watching back over here.
Yeah.
And so I say slow down to speed up and use strategic
Absolutely.
think time. And I think it's so important for that pause between the notes is I've never heard it like that, and that's so true. And so I think when you think about the world-class business people, the world-class athletes that you get to connect with and help and study really even as well, what are you finding for them from either a breathing standpoint, a slowing down to speed up, think time, like I use my other journal all the time. Like what do you see in there that's a game changer for those folks?
Yeah, I think to go back to just what we were talking about is a real clear sense of priority, right? To always, keeping the main thing the main thing. Yep. So even though, right, the higher you sort of rise in importance, whatever that means, you have a lot more that you're responsible for. So the temptation would be that you're just being constantly pulled in so many different directions. And what I've seen, from great leaders, whether it's, the national team coach that I get to work with or really high-level CEOs, is the ability to make sure that they're really clear on what the top priorities are. And the next step is their ability to be really, really present in whatever they're doing. And knowing that it's nonstop, but knowing that the only way to be effective is by bringing their full presence to what they're doing right now. And again, I see this with the national team coach. It's like, I can't fathom the amount of responsibility that's on his plate. But when you're with him, you feel like he is completely present with whatever we're doing right now.
Wow.
And so the only way that you can maintain that is by actually being really clear on what the top priorities are and making sure that those guiding values, principles, priorities are sort of guiding everything, right? And so again, when I work with an organization, I just had a call today with a potential team I might be working with in the future, and we were talking about culture and creating an identity. That clarity of being really clear on who we are and what we're about, right? And make that as super simple as possible. What are those 3 core values? What is the main identity of who we are and what we're about? And now, how do we take those values and turn those into behaviors? And then how do we consistently replicate that behavior day in and day out, making sure that everything that we're doing is tied into those core values.
Yep.
And we can do that in our own personal life as well. Again, the reason I have a purpose statement is so that I have that North Star, so that I have that compass. So when I do feel overwhelmed, I can ask myself, how is this connected to my purpose? And if there's not a strong connection to my purpose, this might be something that on itself is a fine activity, but for me, maybe it's just more of a distraction right now. So maybe I need to say no to it.
Yeah, and you say that now because you've had this experience, and so for that person that's in that grind, in the what I'd call the crap work that we both have had to do in our careers, I think for me, yours is authentic brilliance, right? Is kind of the end of your tagline, and that's what this here is. That future greater than your past is our firm mission. My mission is to help people achieve a future greater than your past. Yep. It doesn't just come to you, but I think working on yourself in that 10-year journey, right?
Oh,
that is how you figure that out. Yeah. And so to people that like, how do you find your mission? Your mission is found by rolling up your sleeves, putting on your work boots, and going out and making things happen, but also studying, being a student of the game, reading, doing different things like that. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's whenever, I try not to give advice as a coach, right? You try not to be an advice giver. You try to listen and help, create clarity through questions and through understanding. But I definitely have young people come to me all the time and say, "Hey, Travis, what do you think I should do? I've got this option or I've got this option." And really the question I always go back to is, of these possibilities or opportunities, which one excites you the most on a personal level? Which one excites you the most? Because again, I go back to, if we follow our curiosity, right? That's a good indicator that we're probably following some authentic purpose that we have, right? And even if things aren't going well, if we're interested and curious, there's probably a certain sense of fulfillment to it. Yeah. And maybe that curiosity leads to another and again, if I just look at my own journey, I was constantly, even at the most desperate of times, I was still following curiosity that I felt resonated with my purpose. And so, as a freelance worker, I wake up more days during the year unemployed than employed.
Right, exactly. Where's that next check coming from? Right.
But when I'm doing work on a day-to-day basis that is intrinsically purpose-driven, I'm still fulfilled even on the days when I'm not making money. And so that fulfillment is the constant because it's deeply rooted and ingrained with who I am. And so the money will come and go, and hopefully the success will incrementally continue to increase, and the financial success will incrementally continue to increase all along this journey. And as terrifying as this journey has been, even at its worst, I still had a sense of, this is who I am and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And that's passing that pillow test when you go to bed at night.
Yep. Yeah, that's huge. And so when you think about fears, I asked a lot of people this question, is we put a lot of fears up our minds in false evidence appearing real is what it stands for. A lot of people say, right? Yeah. And so how many of the fears you've put in your mind have actually blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
Very few of them,
Right.
Very few.
Yeah.
And I think, the fears, this was a Tim Ferriss exercise that he had talked about in one of his books a long time ago. And in talking about fear, and he would, a lot of times when we have these scary fears, we try to avoid them. I don't want to think about them. And he's like, actually, when you notice these big fears that pop up, he's like, basically follow that path, go with it. All right. Ask yourself, okay, if this were to happen, what would happen? He's like, all right, I start a company and it doesn't work out.
Goes bankrupt,
I go bankrupt. He goes, then what would I do? And he's like, all right, I would be broke. So I might have to ask a friend or family member if I can sleep on their couch. And he's like, would I be able to do that? And he's like, yeah, I'd be able to do that. Would it stink? Yeah, it would stink. He's like, well, then what would I do? And he's like, I would probably start, working on the next opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of does like, all right, if the worst case scenario were to happen, what would happen? How would I respond to it? Right. And that's when you can sort of look sort of some of these fearful things, in the face and go, okay, yeah, if that worst thing happened would I still be okay? And I think like, I feel like I've been able to do that over the years, because then it forces you, Brett, to get really, really clear on what is the most important things in my life. And I remember my wife and I having some of these difficult conversations over the years, especially early on. We couldn't afford to live in our house anymore in Florida, and which is why we had to come back up to St. Louis when like 2008, which was egoically just very humbling, and for me, as a father of three, to feel like a big failure, right? To really grapple with, my identity and a sense of failure. And I just remember having a conversation with her, feeling gutted for having to take our family out of our home, which we loved. And I just remember, we were talking, and I said, like, you all are the most important thing. And I know that we're going to be okay. Or the five of us, we're going to be okay. So regardless of what happens, what we have to do, as long as we're okay, we're okay. Yeah. And it forces you to get really granular to like, okay, at the end of the day, what's most important.
So how do you get through that though? So you're there, you're on I call them a dark day.
Yeah, super.
Right? So how did you, super dark, like pitch black dark.
Yeah.
How do you get through that though? Because there's somebody listening to this right now probably that's in a dark day.
Yeah.
And so how do you get through that on days you don't even want to do it? I don't want to get up. I don't want to go work in my purpose. Screw you. What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah. There will be days where you don't do anything.
Yeah.
And
which you have to learn to be okay with.
We have to learn to be okay with. Yeah. And, it was Einstein. I think it was Einstein said that the only time a person makes a real change is when the fear of doing nothing is greater than the fear of change.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think all of us experience that. And so there will be days from someone who's listening to this, they're like, I can't, right? I don't know what to do today, so I'm going to do nothing. And so there will become a moment where it's like, what? The fear of doing nothing is now greater than the fear of actually taking that scary step and moving forward. And so, in those darkest times for me, I'd had gone through a lot of courses on personal development. I had a coach and I had a mentor. And I remember him just saying to me when I was doing no work, making zero money, living with our in-laws. And he was like, all right, Travis, what would it look like if you got up every day and spent 2 hours in your office doing your work? And I was like, but I don't have any work. He's like, no. I'm not talking about, that client, work. Yeah. He's like, I'm talking about your purpose work, where you spend 2 hours being really intentional about, focusing on who you are and the work that you want to do and doing whatever that looks like today, the personal work, right. The internal work. And those were the times, those were the years where, I was probably doing 2.5 to 3 hours a day of commitments, of micro commitments, of things that I knew was allowing me to grow personally and individually, so that when, the work opportunities come along, I'm ready for them. Because we can't control when it's like the fireman's mentality. You don't know when the fire's coming, but it's coming. So what are you doing in the time before the fire comes to prepare you to handle the fire when it actually happens? And that's sort of the uncertain discipline that you have to take advantage of those times. So when the call does come, are you prepared to handle it?
And I would call it street cred too, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you're going to be here with these world-class soccer players, these world-class business people, I got to know that you went and did it. Right? I want to know that.
Right.
I don't want you to just say, oh, I read this in the book last week and it sounded cool, and here, try this one. Like, I want you to know. And so for me, I call it Focus 90. And so every 90 days, I have a different set of goals of things I need to work about. Right. And so, come October 1st, I will have my new set for October, November, December. Yeah. But I will review what just happened in the last 3 months and say, okay, they may be different, they may be the same, but here's what I need to work on to be better. Right. Yeah. And then I have my first 90 minutes of every single day working on those things. I find that when I can win my mornings, I can win the day, but I can also help more people win their day and help myself and others live a future greater than their past. And so
absolutely,
that's for me what works. So what is it for you now for that type of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is walking the walk, and and this as a parent, right? It's am I modeling the behavior that I'm trying to parent? Yep. Right. It's less important what I say to my kids. What's more important is how I actually behave and perform. So, someone who teaches mental skills, how often do my kids see me getting frustrated and displaying a victim mindset? Right. They see it plenty. Right. And so wow. Why would I expect anyone to listen to me? Why would I expect my kids if I'm so there's a clear sense of accountability every single day with my work. And so when I'm coaching, world-class athletes, or when I'm working with a coaching staff, it's like, okay, are we mentoring the behaviors? Are we modeling the behaviors that we expect our players, our kids, our coworkers to model? And so, like you said, you're always focusing on the internal work, because it's the internal work that allows us to do the external work. And if we're not doing the internal work, we can't expect the external work
ain't happening
to grow at all.
Yeah.
And so I love the 90, right? Yeah. That it's every 90 days, and then you're giving yourself 90 minutes to do it every day is just a great way. And it keeps it fresh, and it keeps it, it keeps it always moving. Yeah.
Well, you got like a 90-minute soccer game, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about your company. What you've created is Live Yes And.
Yeah.
I love that. Tell me more about it.
So Yes And is the basis of improvisation, right? So I didn't create Yes And, but anyone who's taken an acting class, anyone who's done any improvisation, the first thing you learn is the yes and the and. So I can teach you to improvise right now, Brett, right? So you and I are going to, we'll tell a story,
okay,
right? We're going to pretend that we're going on like some road trip this weekend. So whatever I say to you, the first thing you're going to say is yes and. You're going to build off of whatever idea I gave you, and therefore you're going to give me an idea back. And I'm going to say yes and build off of whatever idea you give me. So we're just
getting the creative juices flowing here.
We're just creating the story one yes and at a time.
Okay.
Right? And we're only ever focusing on the new information that was given to us. Make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, here we go. So, Bretman, I'm so excited about the road trip we're taking this weekend.
Yes, and I am too, and I can't wait because I've never been to this place before where we've played golf.
Yes, you are going to take me on the best golf courses in the Southeast.
In the Southeast, I love the Southeast. So yes, and so we're going to go down to Florida, and we're going to play this place called the Floridian, which is a great golf course. A lot of PGA members come to.
Yes, and I heard that you've invited one of your professional friends that are going to join us.
I have, and that friend is an amazing athlete, and his name, he played for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he is a great golfer, and we're going to have a lot of fun with him.
Yes, and I am a huge Cardinals fan as well, and while we're down there, he's going to take us to some spring training games.
I love that, and so yes, let's do that, and let's also talk to him about getting back up to the end of the year, and we'll see Pujols hit his 800th home run, or 700th home run. How's that sound?
Yes, and I heard he's going to put some tickets aside for us for all of St. Louis's last home game, so we can hopefully see 700.
Yes, and it's going to be the actual ticket stub and not this thing on your phone that you don't get to keep for the rest of your life. And we're going to sit in the green green seats. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yes, and I know the head concession guy in Busch Stadium, and he's going to hook us up with any concessions we want during the game.
I love that. Yes, and I know the guy. Yes, okay. So you just keep going.
There we go. So yes and. What does yes and mean from an improvisational standpoint?
Yeah.
So you and I, you can improvise now because you can yes and. That's it, right?
Okay.
So 2 or more performers get up on stage. We're creating something. We have no idea where the story is going to go. We can't because I don't know what you're thinking. You don't know what I'm thinking. But as long as we adhere to yes and, we're going to figure it out and we're going to go there together.
Yep.
So yes is acceptance. Whatever I say to you, whatever you say to me, the yes is yes, I accept that idea as reality. But we don't stop there. The and is, and I'm going to build off of your idea with another idea. And then yes and then yes and yes and. So the story can absolutely go anywhere because we're adhering to there is no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer.
Right.
We're creating it on the spot, right? Hey, it's never been done before. As long as we yes and, we're going to be on the same page and we're going to create it together, right? So that's improvisation. Yeah. And then any other performer that comes in, they're going to yes and their ideas, and we're going to yes and their ideas. And so from an improvisational standpoint, the reason, like, I go back to, like, how did they do that? How did they create that magic on stage? Well, they were operating from a mindset of, we're here to make each other look good.
Yeah.
It's actually an improviser's mantra. Is my goal is to make my other performers look good.
Yeah.
What's their goal? To make me look good. And so yes and is the rule or the
mantra,
the principle that
principle.
allows that to happen.
So it makes me think about, I'm having an offsite retreat with our executive team and,
Yep.
and some of our other teammates tomorrow. And so, you know, I've got in my black journal here a bunch of questions, right, to think about the future. And I think, what was the stat I wrote down this morning? That in 1955, 435 of the Fortune 500 companies are gone. So 87% of the Fortune 500 companies are gone.
Yeah.
From there. So how are we staying relevant?
Yeah.
What are we doing to evolve? Because our industry will change. You look at Blockbuster versus Netflix. Yep. How do you evolve or not evolve? And so what I hear this yes and being tomorrow is an improv with our team.
Yes.
Yes, we can do that and yes, and then it's almost going around the room and seeing what we can create inside our firm for our clients and for our advisors.
Absolutely. So what you're going to do is you're going to tap into the collective genius of the group.
Yeah.
Yes and allows you to tap into the collective genius of your team. But we only do that, Brett, if we are actually genuinely interested in the perspectives of the people that we work with, whether that's our kids, whether that's our coworkers, whether that's our sports team. So yes and allows us to say, yes, I care about your perspective. Your perspective is different than mine. Mm-hmm. What do we tend to do when we run into someone who has a different perspective than us?
Yeah.
We tend to want to convince them that our perspective is better.
And you can't stop. So tomorrow, if there's, I don't know, 6 people say sitting around the table.
Yeah.
We can have the 6 people talking about it and just go around the room like in a circle, keep it going.
And you can set parameters around this. So when I consult this from a team or a corporate standpoint, people are like, well, Travis, I mean, we can't say yes and everything. I was like, no, you can't. Of course, this is not a literal, everyone's idea is a good idea. Everyone's idea is not a good idea. Yeah. But the way you get to the good ideas is by getting through the bad ideas. Yeah. And actually someone collaborating with a bad idea and turning it into a good idea because they're bringing their perspective to it.
The creative side too, right? The creative side, totally. You maybe didn't even think about it, but without it's a formal deal. You wouldn't even have thought about this.
Yeah, you know, we growing up, right? What was the Reese's commercial when we were kids? Hey, you put your chocolate in my peanut butter. No, you put your peanut butter in my chocolate. Yeah. Oh, wait, we put them together. We got an even better product. Yeah. It's a yes and, right? Reese's was yes and. Yes, chocolate and peanut putting together, we have a better thing. And so yes and just allows, what we're talking about is we're creating an atmosphere for collaboration. And yes and creates an atmosphere for collaboration. Most of us are used to environments where everything is no but. No, but we've tried that before. That's going to be too expensive. I don't think we can. So all you're doing is you're creating a space to allow the freedom of ideas and information and creativity to happen. From that space, you can then move into a critical, okay, well, based on the parameters that we do have, how do we take that? Okay, 90% of these ideas we can't use, but we've just mined 10% of gold that we can take to move forward with and turn into really practical solutions.
I wrote that down too. Is the yes and versus the living? Most people live in no but.
No,
Because you're right.
Yeah, it's. I'm uncomfortable when someone has a different perspective than me. That's human nature. It's survival, right? If I go outside of the cave and I hear a noise and I don't know what that noise is, I go into fear. I go into protection. I go into survival mode. So we're kind of conditioned to be uncomfortable with someone else's different ideas. Anything different than us is uncomfortable. But if I can create a safe environment where I'm curious when I hear a different perspective, and because I care about you as a teammate or a coworker, I go, Brett, actually, I don't know if I agree with that or if I understand. Help me understand where you're coming from. Yeah. And now, in essence, we're actually building that trust and respect as a team because I actually care about your perspective that's different than mine. And in the process of us getting into that, we're actually protecting ourselves from the blind spots that we have when we sometimes accidentally create cultures of everyone who thinks the same way.
And I mean, my mind is blown on this. I'm already going, I'm picturing myself in the room we're going to be in tomorrow, and you can't stop, and nobody can challenge the idea.
You can set that parameter and go, okay, hey, for the next 15 minutes, let's get out as many ideas as possible.
Write it down.
And one rule is when someone has an idea, no one is allowed to say, whoa, no, this isn't the space for that. And then you can say, after this, let's look at the ideas, and then we can start to look at them more critically. So you can create parameters around that. Yeah. And just to go back to the yes and, so the yes and from a collaborative storytelling standpoint, that's how it works, right? We're in agreement that we're going to create this together. Well, the reason I called my consulting Live Yes And is because if you look back to my journey, kind of from 2005 to me starting Live Yes And, the yes and became my mantra for life. Right, which is whatever is happening, I have to yes and it, right? You're in debt, Travis. Yes, I'm in debt. And I guess we have to leave our home and go take this job in St. Louis because this is the best possible response to this situation. So yes is acceptance. Again, it's acceptance of what is happening. Hey,
good or bad.
It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. Good or bad doesn't matter. Yes is acceptance. I tell people we cannot control 100% of what happens to us. None of it. None of it. I can do everything right and still get a pandemic dropped on my lap. I can do everything right and still have someone con me out of whatever, right? I can do everything right, eat everything right, and still get diagnosed with a sickness. So I cannot control 100% of what happens to me. And I get to control 100% of how I respond to it. That's the and. The and is where we have power. And so I go through life, yes and, yes and, yes and. This is happening, yes and. How would I respond to it if I were on purpose? So if we go back to purpose being our compass, if we're always making every next right step, neutral thinking. I work for Limitless Minds as well. We talk about neutral thinking and then taking the next right step. If I accept everything that's happening, well, now I'm in collaboration with reality. So I call living yes and being in radical collaboration with reality, right? Because it's what's happening.
Right.
So I can complain about it, blame, complain, make excuses. The longer I stay there, I'm just stuck. Totally valid. Yep, I'm a human. This shouldn't have happened. Why did it happen? This is unfair. This is painful. This is tragic. This is cruel. Yeah, all that stuff. And the longer I stay there, I'm just stuck. And as soon as I accept my circumstance and have my response be from that position of purpose, I'm now taking that next step towards problem solving. So the reason my book is called 3 Words for Getting Unstuck is to live that yes and. Getting stuck makes you human. Yep. Staying stuck makes you a victim.
And I love the fact that you put live in it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just yes and, because you got to live it.
I got to live it, right?
Yeah.
And so, the gift in everything is, to your point earlier, what is my street cred is, I've
done it.
I've actually, yeah. Travis, tell me about being like, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in debt with a family of 5 and having no godly idea of how things were going to work out. How'd you do that? Oh, yeah, that's a good question. How did I do that? I don't know. But it was like, what could I do today?
Yep.
What can I do today? Trust,
It's
faith,
action.
take the next step. Trust, faith,
Yes.
take the next step.
So where do our listeners find more of Travis Thomas, man? This has been phenomenal, and I've got tons of takeaways from this. But where do we find more of you?
You can go to my outdated website, which is liveyesand.com. You can find me on most social media at liveyesand. This is the fun thing. My son, my 15-year-old son, I've got a 17-year-old son, 20-year-old daughter. They've been trying to get me on TikTok forever.
Okay.
I'm like, I can't learn another social media. I'm on Instagram all the time. I don't want to learn another social media. My son's like, Dad, look at this guy. You should be on TikTok. I said, all right, listen. His name's Shepard. I was like, Shepard, if you manage the TikTok, you'll be my intern. You manage TikTok and I'll do it. So I've been on TikTok for a week. Apparently some of the videos are doing really well.
That's awesome.
He's like, all right, Dad, give me a video on this. He films me. He takes it. So I'm on TikTok now.
You're a TikToker.
I'm on TikTok now. And then my book that I've referenced a few times, 3 Words for Getting Unstuck, Live Yes and, is on Amazon. So,
Well, Travis Thomas, it's been awesome having you, man. We'll put all this in the show notes where people can find it, and just love the conversation. We'll have to do this again.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'll come back to the studio anytime.
Let's
Brett.
do it.